Hey there, today I will be filling out 3 more Affiliations report cards for Marvel Crisis Protocol. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. Before I continue handing out grades, I want to remind everyone that thanks to the Guild's new sponsor, Tritex Games, I'm doing a monthly giveaway for Marvel Crisis Protocol. You can enter by being subscribed to the channel and then by leaving a comment on each video that releases in a month. So each comment will be 1 entry for that month. So for example, in the month of February, there will be 4 MCP videos, so 4 potential points of entry. As well, Tritex is offering an additional 5% off their MCP products with the code TRITEXGGCP5 at checkout, which is insane because it stacks with their already discounted items. So if you pre-order with them, you're already getting 20% off, so this would account for 25% off your pre-ordered items. The giveaway will always be of a model coming out the following month. However, it seems that there aren't any actual models releasing in March, so I'll still be pulling a name from a hat in next week's video, and we can work out your prize from there. Now, before I begin, I want to clear up a couple of things. My grading scale for this is a C to A, with B being the average, C below average, and A above average. My hope is that then these final grades, or overall grades, will give you an idea of how easy it can be to play these different affiliations. There won't be any failing grades though, because I really don't think any one category for any affiliation is outright failing. Because even what I think one of the worst affiliations in the game is still finding success in leagues and tournaments. And for anyone who didn't watch the previous video in this series, there is a rubric I will be grading all of the affiliations by. The categories I want to cover are the leadership ability on its own, the tactic cards for the affiliation, how deep the affiliation's roster is, how well the team plays with each other, and how well that team can play with other characters from outside the affiliation. A few things worth mentioning here. The leadership and team tactic cards are going to be graded for the most part in a vacuum to just see how good these different abilities are on their own. These will then be also making a large impact on the Synergies categories for both unaffiliated and affiliated characters. And with that, let's talk about Doctor Strange and his defenders. First of all, this is probably my favorite leadership ability that requires power to be spent to activate it. Doctor Strange's Mystical Empowerment allows a character to change an attack's damage type to any of the 3 options. And if this attack deals damage, you apply the target. With several characters in the game having weak points, whether it's because they just don't roll as many dice for that damage type, or because their defensive abilities won't trigger, it's going to be really handy to have. While this ability can only be used once per turn, it will apply to an entire attack though. This means a character with an area or beam attack will have each of the attacks be empowered because of the timing of declaring an attack. So hitting the weak spot on multiple enemies might not always line up, but being able to apply a status condition to multiple enemies is superb. The only reason this leadership ability doesn't get an A+ here is because it does cost a power. Don't get me wrong, it would be broken if it was free, but it is still a cost. So a very solid A here. The defenders only have 1 tactic card, and that is pentagrams, also known as portals. It can only be played by Doctor Strange or Wong, and only during the power phase. But it places a portal that anyone can interact with for a power to be transported across the map. Now sure, anyone means your opponent can also do this, but the turn 1 options that this card opens up are really nice for getting attacks off, stealing an opponent's objective with some power shenanigans like R&D or Wong. So while it is their only card, it's still a really good one, so I'll leave the defenders an A- here, as well in their affiliation depth. The defenders have quite the unique array of characters, from the 2-threat support Wong, to the damage-dealing 3s like Hawkeye and Valkyrie, all the way up to the big boys like Ghost Rider and Hulk, with only more characters coming soon. They have a pretty nice overall sized roster, and they're really only lacking in some of the control game elements with throws and guaranteed pushes. So again, A- in their depth. And now we can get into their affiliated synergies, and I have to give them another pretty solid A- here. Most of the defender's synergy comes from their leader and Wong both having healing powers, and Doctor Strange can give an extra couple of defense dice to an ally within range 3. This helps big characters like Hulk stay alive on the table more, and characters who are more durable like Wolverine and Daredevil become even harder to deal with for your opponents. As well, the aggressive nature of a lot of this team can shine with Strange's leadership ability. The only reason we aren't seeing a higher grade here, though, is the lack of characters in Affiliation that have a beam or area attack to use alongside the Mystic Empowerment, and because a lot of the roster are going to want to hang on to their power for the first couple of turns before they start using that Mystic Empowerment so they can really start going off. The unaffiliated characters that can join Doctor Strange and the Defenders can make for some amazing team-ups, though. Vision and Enchantress with their zero-costing beam attacks make great use of Mystic Empowerment, as I've already talked about. Characters with strong ranged attacks can easily take advantage of Portal once it's placed as early as turn 1 to get 2 attacks off from the middle of the board. Tanky characters can become even more so. Really, the only characters that aren't going to take great advantage of joining the Defenders are control pieces that rely on superpowers. But there really aren't many of those hanging around, and even one of them is an Affiliation anyways, so I'm going to give the Defenders an A here and an A overall. While we can't be sure how much the Defenders are going to continue to grow outside of Iron Fist and Luke Cage, really the only thing I would like to see are a couple more affiliated tactic cards, but the Defenders are doing quite well as it is. Now, on the other side of the street in New York, we have Kingpin and his crime syndicate. He brings a substantial network of resources to the table to help secure his team victory. Not only is this mentality of complete the job at all cost really thematic, it also turns out to be really good. Kingpin's leadership ability has 2 effects. The first is a passive one that allows their healthy characters to count as 2 healthy characters when contesting a secure objective. And the other allows teammates to hand extraction objectives off to one another for a couple of power. So the upside is also the downside with this leadership, because it will all come down to what objectives are taken. Kingpin's leadership can be rendered useless on any of the objectives where you have to interact with a secured to be scoring it. And likewise, the value of handing off an objective can be really nice when there's only one and it's scoring you 2 points, and having it on a tanky character is important, but it isn't going to be quite so useful on an objective like Spider Infected. So I'll give the leadership an A-, because despite it being circumstantial, you always get to dictate at least half of the mission and can ensure at least part of this leadership ability is going to be extremely viable and important in game. The tactic cards, though, are something else. The Syndicate has access to a card that can steal priority for a hefty sum of power. They can also give super stealth to affiliated teammates, and they have a unique tactic card that gives them a one-time use mystic attack that doesn't cost an action. There's a lot of versatility amongst these cards and a lot of powerful effects as well. So it's hard not to just give them an A here. The affiliation depth, though, does leave a bit to be desired. The lack of a 2-threat character hurts a bit when your bodies get to count as 2 for secures and you want to put out as many characters as you can. Granted, there are more characters quickly on the way to help fill out the affiliation with Black Cat and Mysterio, who could bring some really interesting options to this team, but until then, I'm going to leave them at a B+ here. I'm also going to give them a B+ on their affiliated synergies. There are a few characters that go with the tanky theme, like Crossbones, Taskmaster, MODOK, and Kingpin himself, but then Killmonger, Gabi, and Bullseye really don't quite fit that build. Not to mention there is a pretty decent lag of pushes and throws in Affiliation, which would synergize really well with Kingpin's leadership. And the tactic cards are also a bit split on how you want to be playing the team as a whole. However, their out-of-affiliation possibilities are really nice. Cruelty can be played by any allied character, making Cosmic Invigoration not the only affiliated tactic card that allows it to be played like that, which I had previously said. But it does go to show how valuable that flexibility is. As well, getting help from outside affiliation control characters like Shuri or even Spider-Gwen can really boost what the Syndicate is going for on objective play. So I'm going to give them an A here for an overall grade of A-. And now I'm going to talk about one of the first dual leadership teams in Marvel Crisis Protocol with the X-Men. I'm still judging them the same, but they will be getting 2 separate leadership scores because they have 2 different leadership abilities. And for the X-Men, there is quite the margin of difference between the 2. Cyclops' leadership is kind of okay at best on certain objectives like Gamma, where your team will be clumped up, but most of the time there isn't a great payoff where having nearby friendly characters spend power to use spenders is going to shake the game. Especially since it is limited to 1 power per character, it could have had some really cool play and synergies with the characters who easily collect power, but unfortunately that's just not what we have. As well, this is a power shuffling ability, not a power gaining one, so there isn't really a value engine here either, so blue team is going to get a C, but Storm's gold team comes in with a solid A. A leadership that grants cover for allies being attacked outside of range 2 on its own would probably be worth a B or B-, but additionally Storm enables a character 1 leapfrog move per round. Leapfrog meaning one character who's within range 2 can then be placed within range 1 of that same character. Big base characters love this because they get a ton of movement out of it, and other characters like the big bases because they can then move farther as well. So Storm's going to get a solid A for the gold team leadership. The X-Men have 3 tactic cards, and really none of them are bad, and one is even, excellent. To me, my X-Men is my least favorite of them, as 1 leader character spends X power, where X is the number of in affiliation characters you want to have move short. But all of these characters have to move toward the character that spent the power, making its utility a lot less appealing. Children of the Atom is a nice card to have on hand because it doesn't cost anything and removes all status conditions from a character that's an affiliation. And then they get a power for each status removed this way. While there aren't any heavy hitters who care about status conditions yet in the X-Men, we know Jean, amongst other big characters, are on their way that could likely make great use of this card. But their best card by far and away is First Class. A card that costs no power and allows characters to not have to spend power the first time they interact in a turn with any objective is absurdly nice to have. It is only for those characters in affiliation, but still playing this turn 1 to keep your power around for turn 2 is great, or when you encounter a secure like spider portals and deadly meters, and now your team can interact with both the extracts and secures like Asgard, which most other teams just have no way of doing. So for tactic cards, the X-Men keep their A here, only to then lose it for their roster depth. It isn't much to hold against them for being a newly released affiliation that's not going to have a lot of overlap with other teams. But they still get a B- here. And unfortunately, their affiliated Synergies isn't getting a better grade either. Cyclops' very specific leadership doesn't have any in-affiliation big attacks to help discount, and Storm's leadership can work really well with characters that have martial artists like Taskmaster and others, but even in the affiliation characters, there aren't really any to tap into her movement-granting abilities for amazing combos. So I'm continuing the trend of B- here as well, and that's mostly because of the great tactic cards that you'll want to have access to. I will, however, boost their unaffiliated Synergies up to a B+, because that is where we can see Storm's leadership ability really begin to shine, with synergies with these big base characters that care about the proximity of the attacker with cover, and then the one-offs like Gwen, whose strike just gets broken because of that extra movement. So really this grade would be higher, but it's really just being held down by the lack of synergy that Cyclops' leadership ability has. So overall, I'll give them a B, with hopes that more team members to take advantages of Cyclops' leadership and really just more releases to help round out this affiliation, as most smaller teams need. So with that, what characters would you like to see the X-Men get, and how would they help round out this current affiliation's shortcomings? Let me know down below, and it will also enter you in that giveaway by Tritex. Real quick before I close, I want to say thank you to all the members of the Guild Hall. The growth over this past month has been crazy and humbling beyond belief. And I already have next month's tokens up and ready to show off for those who are interested. It'll be in the little end credit scene after I walk away. If you are interested in supporting the guild further, please check out either the Patreon link down below or shop at Tritex Games and use that promo code for an extra 5% off, which saves you money and lets them know I sent you that way. And it will especially help with some of those upcoming mutants we have on the horizon. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at one of the links below. Until then, thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.